working inside the Apple ecosystem, starting with Music Memo on your iPhone, GarageBand, which has a lot of great features, up through Logic Pro 10. If you work inside that, it's going to offer you things for a price that you just can't get anywhere else. Okay, so we're going to be looking at 5 things that I think are really incredibly useful for singer-songwriters. This is something that I think Logic really excels at, perhaps as a default installation, meaning after you just install everything that it has, that set of features is deeper than most of their digital audio workstations. There are some that rival it, obviously, that have a lot of features, but things like Pro Tools doesn't come anywhere close to offering what Logic offers. It's not a comparison to say that you should switch to Logic for every application or every production project you're working on. But for many things, it really does make a lot of sense to use this instead of something else. So the 5 things that I'm going to look at, we're going to start with instruments first, because there are so many great instruments inside Logic. I've only had to go outside of Logic for a few different sets of things. Orchestral bank, I really had to move outside of this. Some vocal samples and instruments I've had to move outside. But for the most part, Logic has great instruments, and it has a ton of them. So pretty much whatever you think of, you can bring in here. An example would be like this dobro here. And I can come through, let's just add another track here for a second. Let's do instrument track. Open up our library. And if you have all of the content installed, you have a ton of different presets, things which you can bring in. I'm always using patch merging. That way I can make sure I don't add a bunch of sends onto different tracks. But I can come through here. We've got great pianos. We've got the stringed instruments, which are awesome. Synthesizers, just about any type of synthesis you can think of. We've got access to everything. And not just instruments, not just synthesizers, but ones that sound amazing and ones that are very functional and can be used in your projects. So it's really great how we have access to all of that here. So when you're songwriting, you can pull up a drummer track. I'm using Tyrell right now, and we can control the performance. We can convert it to MIDI and continue to control the performance with even more depth. All of this really allows us to have just amazing control, and it's just one of the best things about this. Number 2 for songwriters would be the effects. So say that we are recording a guitar part. We'll just use the dobro here for an example. Let's see. Over on the side, we've got great effects and different processors. Just as an example, we have an amp designer. So we can put this through a ton of different amp emulators. And I've heard people say, well, I know that this other third-party one's even better, and that could be true. It's not the point. The point is that we have access to so much directly here. And then if we need to expand, we can. It's not saying you don't have to have third-party things, but it's just a lot of stuff that comes with it. We have a pedal board designer, so we can come through and really get complex pedal boards happening here. So you can see we have all of these different pedals working together. We have a splitter here, so we can do different things, mix them back together. I mean, this thing is pretty intense. We could do an entire course just on that one thing. In addition to that, we've got just tons and tons of other options in each category, between vintage EQ, standard clean channel, or linear phase EQ, all kinds of filter banks, imaging, modulation, pitch control. We can come in and do pitch control right on the track, or we can do it with flex pitch. These are things which a lot of other applications don't have built in. And so it's nice that we have those without having to pay a lot of extra money. Now, again, sometimes you're going to want Melodyne if you're doing a ton of vocal pitch correction. It needs to sound flawless. Every once in a while, flex pitch has some artifacts. It's just part of that. Okay, so effects, processors, it's amazing how easy and how comprehensive that set of tools are. The next thing I want to talk about is the whole Apple ecosystem. So I got my phone screen up now. This is the music memo. We could record a song straight onto our phone here, and it's going to analyze the pitch. It can add drums and bass, all of that straight from here. So you can do idea sketching on your phone. But the best part is that project you can share to your computer and open it directly in Logic. So you don't have to just let it stay there. You can open it up in here. It'll bring in the drums, the bass, and your recording. And then you can use that to build upon inside Logic. This means without having any extra tools, besides your phone and your computer with Logic and this free app, you can have a songwriting sketchbook anywhere you go. On top of that, and this is where I think that this really does become unique, you can take your Logic project and we can send it into GarageBand. So project to GarageBand for iOS, it will do an export and it'll bring it up as like a stereo bounce inside GarageBand. So say you put on your iPad, you could add instruments in there, you could add additional parts, you can continue to work on the song production. You save and close it, and then you come back into Logic later on, and it will all pop up, all of the new things you've added. So again, this whole ecosystem of Apple Music products ties in so tightly together, and it makes it really, really powerful. Number 4, for a singer-songwriter type situation, I think the presets and some of the other included content we haven't talked about really is a huge boost when you're doing your own songs like that. So for instance, say that you're a musician first and not an engineer. Well, we can come through and let's go to this instrument right here. Pretend this is a vocal track. And actually, let's make an audio track for this. Say this is a vocal track. Well, we can come through over on the left in our library, and I can add on a set of plugins here. So it gives us a de-esser, this channel EQ, this compressor, this channel EQ, which just has a little boost after the compressor, and then an optional echo. And so maybe you didn't know how to actually put these all together. And I've seen a bunch of chatter online recently about how the presets inside Logic are not that great. Well, they're not supposed to be the end-all answer for everything. In fact, this is just a jumping off point. And for those who don't know all the stuff about production, how to use an equalizer or compressor, this is a great tool to help them learn a little bit about when you would use them and how you would use them. And so you can actually use it as a teaching tool, but it's just a great way to do it. In addition to that, we have over here all of the Apple loops. Now, it says we've got 27,928 items. I don't know if we have any uninstalled things right now. It looks like everything's installed. And this is another great tool. So the green ones here are the MIDI ones, and the blue ones are the audio. And then we have the drummer loops as well now. Say we wanted to come in and learn more about effects on things. We could find one that we like. Pull that out. And these come along with a bunch of different processing on there. So you can see here's the piano sound. We have a compressor, tape delay, and a channel EQ. So you can learn a lot about production based on these Apple loops and how different effects are used. Now, does every single sound have the correct effect and things on there? No. everything's a little different, and it's some engineer's interpretation at some point when they made all of these. So you're learning like a snapshot of someone's work. But really cool way to be able to see how things are happening and working. Number 5 is going to be the editing tools that we have access to. Now, I could go on. There's so many more than 5 different things for singer-songwriters. But in this case, I've got a vocal here that I've done takes with. And I went through and I can come quick swipe on those to get the perfect comp for my vocal. I've got so many different tools with like my arrangement track and how those work. So for instance, if I like this verse, but I want to move it and make it a verse at this part and move that verse over, I can easily do arrangement work with my song, and it makes it super easy and effective. Everything from then coming into a vocal. Here's my flex pitch. So I can get my pitch just perfect with everything. Let's tighten that up just a little bit. Was a story from my youth. And we actually made some changes to our dobro, so let's take those back off for now. Okay, cool. Was a story that was true, and I knew that it was here. I heard it once, it stayed for life, I knew. So I can come through and get the exact right take. I can tweak it as much as I want. And then on top of all of that, I can easily double this part then. So say I want to come through and create a MIDI track from flex pitch data. Now I've got a track that has an exact MIDI replica of that original part. So I can come through, and if I want to do something like alchemy on that and a pad, or, well, just so many different options here. I'm picking a random sound, by the way. We'll see how that works out. Was a story from my youth. Was a story that was true. Okay, so that beginning part. Interesting. Is that going to work in this case? Not a chance. But I like how easy it is to do those things and how easy it is to come up with alternates. When working with MIDI, we have so many great MIDI editing tools so that we can come through and get the exact performance we want here. I can change pretty much any different thing we have. We have our velocity and our channel pressure. We can add pitch bend, all of that, so flexible and easy to control. And so the editing portion becomes just something we can do without thinking, rather than having to really spend a lot of time and frustrated hours trying to get things right. Okay, so those are the 5 things that I thought about when I was thinking about a singer-songwriter specifically being able to do this. What are some of the things that you would add? Drop them in the comments below, but focus on the singer-songwriter aspect. I want to do some more videos like this, but I'm going to do top 5 things that you would want to use this for drum recording, or top 5 things you would use this for synthesis, etc. We're going to do a series of these and just go through some of these big picture feature sets so you can understand more about how and why you would use things inside Logic.